I accidentally caused a war between my family and my brother's wife's family with one innocent text message. So my brother got married 2 days ago. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, but it turned into a mess even though I wasn't there. You're probably wondering why I wasn't at my own brother's wedding. Well, it's because of his wife's family. My brother wanted me to be there, so he sent me an invitation. But his fiancée told him I couldn't come because I have a boyfriend. Now I know what you're thinking, I'm a guy. And yes, I'm bisexual and I wanted to bring my boyfriend to the wedding. His fiancée said she didn't mind and my brother was cool with it too. But her super religious parents, who insisted on a church wedding, would probably flip out if they saw us there. They might even cause a big scene and create problems between our families, so I had to miss out on the whole thing. After my brother told me I couldn't go to the wedding and explained why, you might think I'd be mad. But honestly, I felt relieved. I'm not a fan of big gatherings because of my social anxiety, and being excluded because of my sexuality wasn't new to me. So on the day of the wedding, I stayed home with my boyfriend. Funny thing is, my parents didn't even know I wasn't going. We were just chilling at home, cuddling, when I got a text from my parents wondering where I was at the wedding. I told them I wasn't there and asked if my brother hadn't said anything. They were clueless and asked what went down. I didn't see any point in lying, so I texted them the whole truth. But after I hit send, I'm not sure what went down because they read the message but didn't reply. And it got me thinking, why were they suddenly so concerned? They didn't even realize I wasn't there until after the wedding was done. It's like they only noticed when the party started. So here's the thing. Turns out my parents had a chat with my brother about me not being at the wedding. And all of a sudden, my absence became the main gossip at the party. From what I gathered, there were two camps. My parents and the rest of my family on one side, and my brother's wife's family on the other. And my brother, now the husband, felt like he had to stick up for his wife. It's wild to think that I was just at home, minding my own business with my boyfriend, while all this drama unfolded at his wedding. The whole party got messed up, and then my brother showed up at my door, furious, yelling at me about why I had to go and spoil his big day. I was totally baffled, so I asked him what the heck went down. He spilled everything. I explained it wasn't my plan to mess things up. I just told our folks what was up because they were clueless and wanted to know where I was. Plus, I figured he'd already filled them in. But he flipped out, saying I wrecked his big day. I fired back, telling him it's not on me if he didn't come clean with them. I just respected their wishes by not showing up. I had no clue it would blow up like this. I've missed out on stuff before because of my sexuality, and our parents never made a fuss, so I figured it'd be cool this time too. I gotta say, it's kinda nice that my parents and the rest of the crew had my back this time. They've never really done that before, so it's a pretty cool change. But still, I can't shake this feeling of guilt knowing I messed up the whole wedding bash. Update 1. 2 days later. I didn't think I'd be back with an update so soon, but man, some crazy stuff went down. So after my brother and his wife jetted off on their honeymoon, things at the wedding party got even messier than I imagined. What's happening now is just wild. Remember when I mentioned those two metaphorical fronts? Well, now it's not just a metaphor. The first couple of days after the wedding were quiet, but as soon as my brother and his wife left for their honeymoon, all hell broke loose. My mom and dad swung by to fill me in, and let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. They were talking about almost coming to blows, and that's not something I'd ever expected to hear about my family. At first, I thought it was kind of funny, but now it's really starting to bother me. I mean, you did a good job of convincing me it's not all on me, but hearing my parents' side still left me feeling queasy. And then the real terror kicked in. I'm talking about my sister-in-law's family finding my Facebook and Instagram and flooding me with hate. I got insult after insult, all with this Christian theme, and they all shared the same last name. It wasn't hard to figure out who was behind it, especially since I don't even know them except for my sister-in-law, who I know comes from a family of homophobic Christians. But it didn't stop there. They started targeting my boyfriend too, hitting him with the same hateful messages. They called us sinners and devils in disguise. It was brutal. I called up my parents and told them what was going on. Then I shot a text over to my brother with screenshots of the messages his wife's family was sending me. And you know what he said? He told me not to bother him with that during his honeymoon, saying I already ruined his wedding party. I couldn't believe it. My brother, acting just like them. Sure, he sent me an apology after my mom gave him a ring, but it didn't change much. But that's not even the main reason I'm hitting you up again so soon. So this morning my phone rings and it's from an unknown number. I hesitated picking up, thinking it might be another one of them. Turns out I was right, but it wasn't any of the usual suspects hurling insults. Instead, it was a woman who introduced herself as my sister-in-law's half-sister. She said she couldn't ignore what her family was up to and wanted to say sorry on their behalf. I assured her I wasn't planning on snitching to her folks and that I didn't hold her responsible for their actions. She thanked me and ended the call, but I can't shake this feeling that maybe she was just trying to cover for her family, you know? Meanwhile, my mom's talking about reporting all the hate and harassment, and she's even threatening to cut my brother out of her will if he doesn't split from his wife. It's a bit extreme, but I get where she's coming from. This whole mess has spiraled way out of control. And hey, thanks to all of you who had my back after my first post. Some of you were wondering why I seem so chill about all this discrimination. Well, truth is, I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now, and compared to what we've been through, this is just another day. I get hateful messages almost daily, not just from these guys, but from all over. I've learned to brush it off. I've been through worse, like that time my boyfriend went to visit his family and I couldn't tag along. We said our goodbyes at the train station, and when the train pulled away, a group of guys jumped me. Ended up in the hospital with some serious injuries. Just goes to show, this isn't my first rodeo with this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, despite all this, I'm still standing. I've got my boyfriend by my side and we've got each other's backs. And as crazy as it sounds, I still have hope that things will get better, that people will learn to accept us for who we are. Until then, we'll keep fighting the good fight because love always wins in the end. And let me make one thing clear. We're not letting my sister-in-law's family off the hook. We're definitely reporting them for their hateful behavior. But truth be told, what they're doing is nothing new to me. I've seen this kind of discrimination 1,000 times before. It's like a broken record, you know? Different faces, same old hate. But we're not backing down. We'll stand up to them, just like we've stood up to all the others before them. Because at the end of the day, love and acceptance will always triumph over hate and bigotry. Update 2. 9 days later. It's been a few days, and first things first, me and my boyfriend are okay. Thankfully, those hateful messages they sent didn't escalate beyond texts. My mum took action and filed a report against them. As for the current status of that, I'm not entirely sure because I haven't filed one myself. But that's not the main reason I'm updating you. Remember the person from my sister-in-law's family who reached out to me last time? Well, turns out she's actually going to testify in my favor and against her own family. It takes real courage to do something like that. She's the same person who called me before. And guess what? They found out she's into women, but she's not hiding anymore. She's staying with a friend, and I admire her strength. Imagine having to testify against your own family. It's a lot. But here's the real kicker. What's going on with my brother? Well, my mom had a talk with him and gave him an ultimatum. Leave his wife or lose out on his inheritance. He chose to stick with his wife, and true to her word, my mom cut him out of her will. My dad did the same. When I visited them, I expressed my wish that things had gone differently. They assured me it's not my fault, but I can't help feeling like I played a part in tearing my family apart. I haven't spoken to my brother since then. My boyfriend's feeling similar. He thinks he's to blame for all this chaos, but I've told him it's not his fault. Although in my position, I'm not even sure if I can say that with certainty. On one hand, it was my sister-in-law's family's bigotry that caused all this mess, and everything would have been fine if I could have just attended the wedding. But now I need to step back from all this. We'll see what happens with the report. I've taken your advice and documented everything. The hateful messages kept coming until just 2 days ago, so I've got plenty to say about them. It's unfortunate that homophobia is still so common in our society. As I've mentioned in a post on my profile, the reason I'm able to stay calm and casual about this situation is because I've become accustomed to dealing with these kinds of challenges. They just don't faze me anymore. If I let every insult get to me, I wouldn't have lasted this long. It's become a coping mechanism for me. I've been in situations where I ended up in the hospital simply because I kissed my boyfriend in public. So facing insults and harassment like what I've experienced from them is nothing new. I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for all the support you've shown me in my first 2 posts. Update 3. 2 months later. This might be the final update, so pay attention. Last time, I mentioned my mom was taking legal action against them, and to my surprise, we came out on top. While they didn't end up behind bars, they were held accountable for their actions financially. There was even a scary incident where my sister-in-law's dad was trying to track down where I lived, and only the heavens know what he would have done if he found us. Thankfully, in these past 2 months, my boyfriend and I moved to a new place, a secret my brother wasn't privy to. Additionally, their social media accounts mysteriously vanished. I'm not sure if it was part of their punishment or if they did it themselves. As for my mom, she followed through on her threat and cut my brother out of her will. When he returned from his honeymoon, he pleaded with her to reinstate him, but she laid down her terms. He had to apologize to me. So we were invited over, and I'll tell you, my brother's expression in that living room said it all. He reluctantly apologized, but I could see it wasn't genuine. He did it out of obligation, not true remorse. I let him know that I'm disappointed in the person he's become. It's baffling to me how things changed between my brother and me. We used to have this tight bond, never judging each other for stuff like this. And then suddenly he's got this big issue with me having a boyfriend. I just can't wrap my head around it. I even told him how much I missed the old him, but he didn't say a word. He just sat there in silence, staring at the ground. When I finished talking, he got up and left. That was the last conversation we had, and it's been a few weeks since then. Since that incident, my parents have been much more attentive to the discrimination I face as a queer person. They've been eager to understand the challenges I deal with. I really appreciate their efforts. My dad even got me a bisexual pride flag and asked if he could hang it up in our bedroom. It's moments like these that remind me how lucky I am to have such supportive parents. I just wish my brother could revert to the person he used to be. Oh, and by the way, ever since the case with my sister-in-law's family wrapped up, I haven't heard anything about their lesbian daughter. She stood by us during the legal process, but we lost touch afterward. I can't help but wonder how she's doing now, and I hope she's okay. Update 4. 6 months later. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I thought some of you might be curious about how things are going now. So here I am, back at least for this post. Let me start by giving you an update about my sister-in-law's sister. About 2 months after my last update, she reached out to us and asked if she could come over. We had a good chat, and I was relieved to hear that she's doing okay. Turns out she moved in with her girlfriend after the legal case was over. Her parents and the rest of her family disowned her and even threatened her with violence if she ever returned. She stayed with us for a couple of weeks after her relationship ended, and during that time, my parents offered her a place to stay at their big house. She's still living with them now as she pursues her studies, and my boyfriend and I are helping her out financially. We've included her in various celebrations like Christmas and New Year's Eve, and I feel like she's become the sister I never had. Now on to my brother's situation. Truth is, I'm not entirely sure. We haven't spoken since the so-called apology. However, he did try to attend our Christmas party, but the moment he showed up, my dad kicked him out, stating that this homophobic rubbish is no longer allowed in my house. I couldn't have been prouder of my dad. Oh, and of course, they followed through with disowning him. As for me and my boyfriend, we're still going strong, and I'm starting to feel like he might be the one I want to marry. This whole ordeal has only strengthened our bond. I've been thinking about proposing to him, but there are so many ideas swirling around in my head that I can't decide on just one. Also, all the social media accounts of my sister-in-law's family have vanished. They've probably created new ones under different names. Honestly, I'm just relieved that this whole mess is finally over. I don't have any sympathy left for my brother. I just wish he hadn't turned out this way. Everything that's happened to him, he brought upon himself. And hey, if you guys are interested, I'll definitely update you when I'm engaged. Hey, remember when I mentioned in my last update, about 2 months ago, that I was planning to propose to my boyfriend? Well, guess what? I went ahead and did it today. Let me tell you, coming up with the perfect proposal was tough. I had so many ideas swirling around in my head that it was hard to settle on just one. So I decided to drop some subtle hints to gauge his reaction and then go from there. In the end, I decided to create a photo album of our journey together, highlighting the most significant moments in our relationship. Each photo had a caption beneath it, with some of them being heartfelt reflections and others just silly anecdotes. Like there's this one picture of us chowing down on pizza at his favorite restaurant on his birthday, and the caption simply reads, "Damn, that pizza was good." It got him laughing, which was exactly what I was hoping for. Afterward, we took a stroll to his favorite spot in town, which happens to be this gorgeous lake. It was the perfect setting for what was to come next. That's the moment I handed him the album, presenting it as a gift and urging him to flip through its pages. He was engrossed, oblivious to my sneaky maneuvering behind him, merely explaining that I needed to grab something I'd forgotten. Silently, I positioned myself directly behind him, waiting for the perfect moment to execute the final surprise. That crucial page featured a snapshot of me holding the ring, mirroring my stance behind him, staring directly into the camera. The caption read, "Hopefully he says yes," When he turned around and laid eyes on that unexpected revelation, his expression transformed into one of disbelief, tears streaming down his cheeks almost instantly. I barely had a chance to ask the question before he eagerly responded with a resounding yes. It unfolded exactly as I had envisioned, straight out of the pages of a romance novel. It was a dream come true, and I knew right then and there that we were destined to be together. Excitedly, I shared the news with everyone in my family, except for my brother, of course. Their joy overflowed, especially from my mom and newly acquired sister, whose shrieks of excitement echoed through the phone. While I hadn't directly informed my brother, I figured he must have caught wind of the announcement through my Facebook post. Perhaps he's plotting something, but whatever his plans may be, they won't deter our happiness and commitment. Would you like me to keep you updated on our journey to the altar? I'd love to share all the details of our wedding and everything that follows. I've got to share this exciting update with you all. So as we're gearing up for our big day and planning out every detail of our wedding, we came up with something totally out of this world for our first dance. Instead of the traditional slow dance, we're going full-on Jedi with a lightsaber battle. Yep, you heard that right. And it's not just any old clash of lightsabers. It's going to be an epic choreographed showdown that we're both geeking out over. We're both major Star Wars buffs, so this idea just felt like the perfect fit for us. Now, here's where it gets even cooler. My dad, who's just as big a Star Wars fanatic as we are, threw in his own twist. He wants to get in on the action and add a bit of drama to the battle. Picture this, he'll step into the fray, challenging my fiancé to a lightsaber duel to prove his worthiness to marry me. Of course, my fiancé will emerge victorious, no doubts there, and then it'll be my turn to test his mettle. Cue another lightsaber clash between us, with me ultimately acknowledging his strength and valor. It's like something straight out of the movies. Now, I get that some folks might think this whole thing sounds a bit childish, but honestly, I couldn't be more pumped for it. It's going to be such a memorable and fun moment at our wedding, and I can't wait to see the looks on our guests' faces when they witness the spectacle. Our wedding day is shaping up to be an event to remember, that's for sure.